and welcome to this latest edition of H2O Global News Stream. I'm Abby Davey, and today I am interviewing Frank, who is the CEO of the organisation that we are interviewing today. Frank, I hear you've got some big news to share about your organisation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we do, Abby. Thanks for having me on. We're really excited this week. Our company, which heretofore has been known as ClockSpring NRI, just announced on Monday we're rebranding our global parent organization as Critica Infrastructure, which you'll see in the background. Reason we chose to sort of rebrand the company is over the last several years, both through organic as well as acquisition growth, the company has really repositioned itself in a pretty broad diversity of infrastructure markets. Historically, ClockSpring and NRI brands have serviced the pipeline, particularly the energy pipeline market, as well as sort of process industries inside defense applications with a broad portfolio of repair products. Over the last several years, we've moved, again, with acquisition and new product line launches really into the water, wastewater, stormwater, and civil infrastructure markets that also cover transportation and building and other civil infrastructure.
That's fantastic. And of course, you're not new to this sector. So it's brilliant that you've moved into this area with us.
Yeah, well, look, as our company's been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing it for almost 30 years, not all with Critica Infrastructure. I joined the company 3 years ago. Interestingly, I joined March 2nd of 2020, about 2 weeks before the global shutdown for COVID.
So, goodness.
Time to start a new job as a CEO of an organization. I still have people around the world. I've met obviously all the North American team, but I still have colleagues in Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia that I've still not physically met, but we've developed a great relationship over Teams and Zoom.
Well, this is the lucky thing about new technology, hey? And I would love to know about Critica and its solutions and what it offers to the water industry.
So the company was really, the individual companies were all founded with a view towards providing really sort of disruptive, innovative ways to solve existing infrastructure problems. We have positioned the company predominantly as a provider of engineered products that service the infrastructure market, but particularly in the area of repair, rehabilitation, renewal of existing assets. Our belief is that the world's got a tremendous amount of infrastructure, and as we continue to build new infrastructure, the challenge is that the existing infrastructure we have, whether it's pipelines, bridges, roads, sewers, really all our collective infrastructure that we depend upon every day to run our economies is really in difficult shape. I think many people in the water industry have certainly, every year we get the American Society of Civil Engineers report card on our infrastructure, and every year, not surprisingly, it's like a D- grade. So again, our company was really founded and premised on the idea that a lot of the work in the coming decades is going to have to be repairing the existing infrastructure we have. And in many cases, that infrastructure is being asked to operate well beyond its design life, simply because it's either too difficult or too expensive to replace it in kind. It's very difficult to get new projects permitted. Funding can be a challenge, and the reality is, in many of our, communities, in areas around, the globe, just the existing environment, the utility corridors have grown over. They've become very crowded as new utilities have been added, and in many cases, there's just literally no room to put in, new pipelines, new fiber optic cables. I mean, it's become incredibly crowded, incredibly aged. So the market is really looking for sort of innovative solutions that allow that infrastructure to be repaired, but in a less disruptive way than a lot of the legacy solutions have typically provided.
And can you discuss how those individual business units under Critica are linked to the critical infrastructure and focus on water? If you could break that down, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so all four businesses have their own, technologies that fit into different segments. Our AVT division, for instance, produces a insertion valve, which interestingly I had not heard of. I spent 30 years in the water business. I had never heard of an insertion valve until I started looking at the company
It's
with the
amazing.
private equity owner to come on board. But it's a fantastic technology. And I think it's a great example of what all of our product lines do, which is it offers an owner that needs to put an additional control point into their potable water distribution line where they don't, currently have a valve today. And the key is, to put a new valve into a line, you basically have, most utilities use the traditional approach of turning the water off. You put two line stops in. So you're digging two pits to put line stops on either side of the valve location. Then you're digging a location to install a new valve. So you got three pits, you've got water turned off, customers inconvenienced. And then after the valve is cut in, you have to go back through a disinfection protocol and regimen to bring that line back or bring that line back on service. So what an insertion valve essentially does is it allows the utility to dig a single pit and install the valve while the water is running.
Nice.
It's actually, the installation is done under pressure. It's a gate valve that is basically cut in with a machine while the line's operating. The positive pressure displaces all the cuttings that can be installed on a PVC line, ductile iron, cast iron, even asbestos cement pipe. Steel pipe, so it's got a pretty wide variety of applications. And again, it brings this great solution to the potable water industry, where as these lines age and the distribution systems, begin to experience problems, the utilities they know their lines are going to, have unanticipated breakages and disruptions. So what they want to do is add control points into the system so that when that inevitably happens, they're not shutting off a large part of their distribution system. So again, it gives them that opportunity to kind of fine tune, control, and isolate different parts of their system. But it's a very light footprint. I mean, literally, we're talking about, and by the way, the valves go from 4-inch to 24-inch. So what we're talking about is a pretty surgical installation pit. It's not trenchless. It's not no dig, but it's low dig.
Yeah, I love that low dig. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, so it's low dig, and again, you can install a valve in under an hour, single pit. And the great thing is, the customers never know that there's been a valve installation going on because they haven't had their water shut off. So light footprint, low cost, and very utility customer friendly.
That's fantastic. And GeoTree works more on the stormwater, floodwater, wastewater side. Is that correct?
That's correct. So in the sewer collection system and the waste, stormwater management world, a lot of those lines are larger diameter lines by definition, either on the collection side for wastewater or the stormwater management side. And again, like all pipelines, a lot of this infrastructure was put in, 50, 60, sometimes even 100 years ago. And in the wastewater world, the big culprit is H2S, which will really, over time damage and compromise the integrity of the lines. And then you've got a problem with exfiltration of untreated wastewater, or at a minimum, you've got sort of releases of stormwater that you would rather have contained in the line. So typically, the historical remediation or rehab technologies that have been deployed, in the stormwater management and wastewater world have either been dig and replace, which again is expensive, requires permits, a lot of traffic control, and then sometimes, again, you're in these crowded utility corridors, and it's just, it's tough to find a new place to dig to put a line in. So essentially, and the other typical rehabilitation solution there has been cured in place pipe, which is a absolutely great technology, tried, true, proven. You can do it with felt tubes or UV tubes, UV glass tubes. But again, as those diameters get larger, the liners get very expensive, and it's a pretty costly installation. So Geotree developed a really interesting spray applied geopolymer. And what it does is it marries together two things that you want in the pipeline rehabilitation world for gravity systems. You want structural strength and you want corrosion resistance. So it's a spray applied liner, again, a trenchless technology where same contractors that would do CIPP typically can do the spray applied geopolymer lining. It lets them spray out and rehabilitate large diameter sewers where CIPP might at larger diameters become a very expensive rehabilitation solution.
That's incredible. And last but not least is Fife.
Yeah, so Fife's
both, isn't it? Municipal and industrial water, but not exclusive to the water sector. But I'd love you to just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Fife's a really interesting company, founded back in the 90s, and most of our companies, sort of have a, anywhere from a 10 to a, 30, in some cases actually 40-year application history. Fife's a composite-centric business. It was founded in the 1990s, originally kind of bringing over composite technology from the aerospace industry and deploying that in the civil, structural, and pipeline repair world. So a lot of what Fife does is provide carbon fiber composite products, CFRP, carbon fiber reinforced polymers, to essentially, apply them very surgically in the civil structural world where you need to provide strengthening either, in seismically active areas or where there's been erosion or corrosion in the underlying existing concrete structures.
Yeah.
On the pipeline side, there's a lot of existing concrete pipe that's been used in water transmission systems, less in the distribution side because that's generally been smaller diameter PVC, ductile iron, cast iron. But in these larger diameter transmission systems, pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe, particularly in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, was a preferred construction material for large diameter potable water transmission. A lot of these lines have developed challenging problems as, again, sort of corrosion has taken place, and particularly in cases where the internal steel reinforcing wires have become exposed, and that's really what provides the structural strength to the pipe. So what Fife did, quite a number of years ago, was deployed that same CFRP composites technology into repairing pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. It's an internal wet layup. And again, it provides great strength, really superior corrosion resistance. So it's kind of a targeted solution. Think about it as one more tool in the toolbox of utilities and designers to kind of solve rehabilitation and repair issues with concrete pipe.
That's amazing. And one of the key points that is rung throughout this whole discussion is how you're helping to create sustainable infrastructure and really helping these organizations to focus on improving their current infrastructure. Do you see sustainability being key to what critical infrastructure is providing?
Very much so. I mean, it's really at the core of everything we do. I mean, when we go out and talk to asset owners, design engineers, their view is often, hey, we have an existing problem. Help us think about solutions that are lighter footprint from a disruption standpoint, less disruptive to the surrounding community. Whether anytime you're repairing existing infrastructure, by definition, businesses and just population in general is going to be impacted, whether it's through traffic control, rerouting, having to shut down assets. So our whole view of the infrastructure industry is helping utilities and their design consultants find a better way to rehabilitate their infrastructure, lighter footprint, lower cost, which is important because in many cases, utilities have sort of fixed rehabilitation budgets that they can spend each year. So if we can help their dollar or their pound or their euro go farther, that's incredibly important. If they can get more rehabilitation done, accomplished on an existing, finite or fixed budget, that's very meaningful to utilities. And then if we can add in this notion that we can help them, avoid having to build new infrastructure, repair what they have, provide solutions that are, 30, 40, 50-year, renewal solutions, that's incredibly important, and it really backs the whole sustainability ethic.
And to be quite honest with you, it's very much needed. With climate change and climate adaptation, infrastructure is key, and these organizations got so much pressure on them. So great work, keep doing what you're doing, and congratulations on that fantastic rebrand. I can't wait to see where you go next.
Well, thank you. We are incredibly passionate, about infrastructure in our company. It's one of the reasons we relaunched the overall branding for the company, so that all the parts of our company are fully represented in the new branding. But again, we're incredibly excited. We're just super passionate about infrastructure. It's a thing that, look, infrastructure is something a lot of people take, sort of don't really consider. They just take it for granted right up until it doesn't work, and they, or they're trying to get somewhere and the infrastructure is not allowing them to do it. And it's we all dislike when our utilities go out, whether it's electricity, whether it's gas, whether it's water. It's an incredibly important part of our planet. So again, we're incredibly passionate about it. I've devoted my career to it, and every single person in our company, when they wake up in the morning, the real, one of our core values is improve every day. And that doesn't mean just improve, what we do every day, but it's improve the world every day in some small way.
That's an amazing way to end this interview. Improve the world in some way, shape or form. Thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and learning more about critical infrastructure.
Well, thank you for having me, Abby. I really enjoyed our time together.